Welcome, everyone, to Flow at Work. I'm Emma Thomas, and today we have someone very cool in the recording studio with us, Michael Beardsley, everyone. Michael, thank you for joining me on Flow at Work.
Yeah, thank you. Excited.
Well, I know your skill set as a senior technical consultant is robust, and one thing that I was very excited to learn about you is that I understand you've been helping to teach and sort of coach junior developers on using something in ServiceNow called Visual Studio Coding. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So the Visual Studio Code app there's a ServiceNow official extension for it. So they play very nice together, and it makes working in ServiceNow even easier than it already is. So yeah, it's a very enjoyable experience that I can walk through and show you how. Yeah, I've been showing other people how to use it.
Yes, please. I would love to have a quick overview of that. I know this is going to be very outside of my wheelhouse, but hopefully we have some listeners and viewers that will really benefit from this. So please do share.
So on the left, we have the Visual Studio Code application. On the right, I have a ServiceNow instance. So first thing we'll do is, or what I've already done before this, is I made a custom app in ServiceNow. This is one caveat that you need to do. So whether you already have a custom app on your instance or you're creating one for the first time, you'll need to do that in ServiceNow. And as you can see here, I'm in the ServiceNow studio, and it's pretty much empty. It's just my new app is what I called it. So now that we have that created, I can sync that with Visual Studio Code and pretty much work almost primarily out of Visual Studio Code instead of within ServiceNow, which um, you might ask why. Coding in Visual Studio is a little more fun, I would say, has a little more features. It just makes life a little easier once you get really good at it. And ServiceNow, as we know, is an easy place to work, but if you're updating any scripts, this is the tool to do it in. It's purpose built for that, so that's why it's always good to work in here and be good at this as well. So some extra skills never hurt.
So quick question on that. You
Yes.
mentioned that, you primarily use this, for the custom apps. So
hmm
if somebody does not have custom apps, like they're just using, out of the box products, would this not apply, or would there still be some use cases where you could use this for like your incident management or something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there is a use case for that as well. So um, yeah, of course we do coding in out of the box stuff as well for extra configurations or a little more complex configurations, not necessarily customizations. So there's still the scripts we need to update, and you can still pull those into here and sync them back and forth. So there is a use case for both creating and updating custom apps, and also tweaking your out of the box apps to have the code that you need. So I will show how to do both of those.
Awesome.
So the first thing I'll need to do real quick is I have a completely bare bones. I'll show you how quick this is setting it up from scratch. So we have the extension here that I already installed. So the ServiceNow extension for VS Code. Again, this is a official ServiceNow supported. So that's already installed. So if I do this up at the top here in the command line, we have now and the colon. So these are all the commands we can do for the ServiceNow extension. And what I want to do is activate it. So I'll click activate, and there was quite a learning curve to this. It didn't really look like anything happened, but on the bottom left down here, it says set up workspace. So that's what we want to do. We want to set up a new workspace, which is going to be our ServiceNow instance, basically, within this other application. So we need to put it in a folder, and I have one already created here for this demo. So I selected that folder, and we'll give it a second to kind of do its thing. You can see it changed to the ServiceNow green. If I open the File Explorer here, you can see it started. So again, kind of hard to tell, but on the bottom left, there's the Create Project now. So this is what we need to click to enter our actual URL for our ServiceNow instance. So if I copy this, put it in here, And then it's going to ask us our authentication type. So what I'm doing right now is basically connecting to this instance. So I need to put in a username and password after this. So we have basic authentication. You can do OAuth or multi-factor. This all depends on what your setup is in ServiceNow. For this demo, we'll just do basic, and the user I'm using is the normal admin user. So that's my username and my password. And then it should say success. So now we are connected. And this is the one caveat I mentioned. You can't connect directly to the ServiceNow out of the box global scope, as it's called. So you need to have a custom application to kind of get started, but you don't necessarily need to use custom applications at all, like we mentioned. So just sort of a small workaround. So we'll click custom app, we'll click import existing, and there's only one in my instance that I created, my new app. So I will click this, and it gives us everything here. So we don't necessarily have to import everything, but I'm going to, because yeah, this app there's nothing there yet, so no harm, no foul. So now, as you can see here, my app is here, and we have basically synced up with what it looks like on the studio for the most part. So we have this SRC source folder, and this is where it really is synced up. So we have data model, navigation, etc. So right now there's no scripts or anything in our app. We just have a table in some modules here. So the other cool thing here is those are also synced up here. So if I was working in Visual Studio Code, and for whatever reason I needed to open that table, I can just click this. It's gonna, do you want to go to an external website? Yes. It'll excuse me. Then it will directly open up the dictionary of that table. So another reason you don't need to be in ServiceNow, you can have your VS Code be your main source of work for this, and you can jump over here whenever you need to. But I will close that for now. What we really want to do is see how we can update and sync back and forth. So it's very bi-directional, so I can actually create a new business rule or something in here if I want to create it. I can create a file, create new file, and it gives us all of the options from ServiceNow that you normally would see. We can create client script. Script includes really anything. But for this purpose, we'll just create a business rule. I will just name it my business rule. Keep it very simple for the demo, and then it automatically creates it almost like you were in ServiceNow directly, because it has the functions and headers and footers that you normally get if I was creating a business rule within ServiceNow. So what I can actually do is, if I just update this I'll just create a small variable real quick, just demo, and have it empty, just so we have something in here.
I noticed as you were typing, certain things were kind of flashing in red. Is that sort of auto correcting, like maybe incorrect code, like prompting you to show, like, hey, this isn't done? Like, why were some things flashing red?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that is one thing I like about Visual Studio Code more than ServiceNow. ServiceNow does have the error detection automatically, but as you can see, it was a lot quicker and more in your face when I was typing it over here. So maybe even if I just type something, things are going red. I got this here. Yeah, it's just a lot more dynamic with making sure that your code is good and has no errors. So that is another plus for using this. So
yeah, cool.
Now, if I want to basically save this business rule and have it show up in ServiceNow, because right now we are still just in basically my local computer, I have to save the file. So I'll save it. And now I can actually click sync file, which is down here in the bottom. So if I sync file, this is doing exactly what it sounds like. It's syncing it right up to ServiceNow. So it should be pretty quick. Click sync, it says completed. And now you can see here in ServiceNow that the business rule exists and it was created. So
wow.
yeah, it's
Very
not
cool.
Yeah, there's of course still things, because this is a business rule, you'll still need to update and do your conditions and things like that. But the actual code that we put created the business rule and it exists. And the cool thing is, if I wanted to update this in ServiceNow, because usually we're working in teams, and some people, are going to work in the instance, some people might not. So someone might update this, and let's just fill this in here. Save it here, and now I can have that sync back to VS Code as well. So to showcase that it's bi-directional. So I can do the sync file again, and it'll go to ServiceNow and see if any changes were made, which they were, of course, and then bring it back in here. So that is the very simple use case for the custom apps. It's very tailored to, going back and forth this way, almost mirroring this this functionality.
Interesting.
Yes.
I guess what I'm wondering too is Visual Studio an application that people would need to download or install in their computers, or is this sort of like a web application? Like how would somebody access Visual Studio?
Yes. Sorry, great question. So this is a standalone application you'll download from Microsoft, I believe. So it is, it's its fully owned app that we're just using to connect with ServiceNow to make our work easier, or more dynamic, I should say, because ServiceNow is easy. So that is, I won't spend too much time on the custom app syncing, because that is a smaller use case. As you mentioned, most people are going to be working in out of the box modules and things like that. So I'll show next how we can do that as well. But of course, Platformation, one of our separators, I would say, is custom applications. So it is nice to be able to share this knowledge with others as well, if they want to, ask us questions about this or try it themselves, and we can, of course, help them along the way.
Cool.
So next thing here, I'll do the global search now. So ServiceNow also makes this easy with their extension. So if I go back to the now command and go to the global file search, that again gives us another similar thing here. So do I want to search for, it asks me what I want to search for. So let's stick with business rules. And it's going to take a second to basically pull in every business rule in your ServiceNow instance. So this is where you can search through and figure out which, of course, you probably know which business rule you need to update. So for this one, I'm going to use the call or close business rule. It's just one of the business rules in the incident management module that has a few script checks in it. So we can look at that. And this has the checkbox functionality here. So if you can pull in as many as you like. So just for now, I'll do one.
Quick question. So this might be a dumb question or a moot point. If a sysadmin, because I can imagine, depending on the maturity of a ServiceNow instance, there could be hundreds, if not thousands of business rules. I don't know. How could, yes, you're probably answering my question already. How could a sysadmin locate the business rule in ServiceNow that they need to modify?
Yes. So I just went to the business rules system definition. So this is going to pull in all of the business rules that exist in ServiceNow. So this is the same list that populated just now before. So the likely way they'll know that which one they need to update is maybe something's not working, or in their troubleshooting, and they finally pinpoint, just for this example, an incident is closing automatically and I don't know why. So they narrowed it down to something in this script. So they found the business rule and they need to update the script to, as you can see, there's different if statements here. So maybe they need to change this to, they need another check here to say, actually, the out of the box isn't working 100% for us. We need to tweak this a little bit. And if I pull up this business rule, the same one in the instance, we can see even not every out of the box business rule is no code. This is completely out of the box, and ServiceNow, it's actually full code, I believe, because there's no conditions. They have some things set here, but all of the logic for what's happening here is being coded. So if you needed to update your requirements for this specific incident use case, then you're essentially forced to update the code. So I know the goal is low code or no code, but there's going to be times where you can't avoid that. So from this point on, we already got to the global out of the box script. So it's much of the same from what I just showed, where we'll sync the file back and forth. But there are some caveats that I'll show, because the best practices between updating something in out of the box global is different than updating something in a custom application. So luckily, the VS Code plugin sort of protects you and forces you to make sure you're not doing the wrong thing. So it protects you from yourself, which is always good.
I wish there was a plugin for that in real life. Save me from myself, honestly.
Yeah.
So I heard you say plugin. Does that
Mhm.
mean that if a customer does want to use this, they need to first install the VS plugin in their instance, or could you somehow still do this bidirectional sync without having that plugin installed?
So you do not need to install a plugin in your ServiceNow instance. You just only need to, like we mentioned, you need to get the Visual Studio Code application itself, but then there's the plugin or extension, they're called, sorry, for the Visual Studio. But your ServiceNow instance, you don't need to do anything extra with plugins or anything like that. It's just really what we showed before, where you put in your URL, you put in your authentication username, password to get connected, and then that's it. So, which is, I think is very nice. You don't have to install anything extra on ServiceNow. It makes our life a little easier and less complicated, and no extra costs as
Indeed.
well. That's also a big plus.
No extra
Um,
cost is always the biggest plus.
yes.
Free
Yes.
99.
Yeah. Yeah. Visual code's free.
Awesome.
Everything in ServiceNow is free, so no worries there. So yeah, so I'll just show real quick how to do the sync this way, because there is one important part that that is a best practice. So, and I'll actually try to show the wrong way to make sure that I'm telling the truth, that it does protect us from ourselves. So if I just update this code in Visual Studio Code real quick, I'll just add another variable, just like we did before, just to have something different. And I will save it. Do Control S on my keyboard. And then if I try to sync this, it should yell at me, because as you can see down here, it's kind of not as user-friendly as you would hope, but we have the default global update set. So that's telling us that we're in the default update set for this file, which I should reiterate, best practice is for anything out of the box or global is to not update something in the default update set. You should always have an update set for whatever you're updating. So this is what it should protect us against. So if I try to sync this, it should, yes, so it should say cannot sync changes to the default. So it doesn't say it's protecting you from yourself, but that is exactly what it's doing. It's not letting us sync it because we're in the default. So what we have to do is create an update set, which is something an admin or whoever's doing this should always do. Get in the practice of, I need to update something. Let's create an update set first and then go from there. So if I create an update set real quick, I'll just call it demo, make sure it exists in ServiceNow. And then what we have to do actually is it's an immediate sync. So if I go back and click on this update set, our demo one is already here. So I need to switch to the demo one. So now anything that's changed in the script, and I try to sync it, it will be done in that update set correctly. So now if I sync, it should work. Yep, so it's completed. And if I go back to the script, and now our update is there again. So that is the one nice feature. You can do the updates in global out of the box modules directly, and also not do damage along the way. Basically, you can still do it correctly using update sets as it was intended. So that part's really nice. And yeah, there's also the bidirectional syncing as well. So if we were to update this here, I could sync file and it would work again because we're in the update set. So not to repeat, I won't show that again because it's pretty straightforward. But one other thing you can do is use background scripts in Visual Studio Code. So this is almost like a third feature outlier, I guess, option that many people know that if you are trying to figure out why a script's not working, or you want to do something that doesn't necessarily fit in a business rule or client script or whatever, just kind of a one-off check, you can do a background script, which is the ServiceNow version of it. But again, it's not as dynamic as being in Visual Studio. So if you ever need to update something real quick or check data or do anything that's, just you need to do with a script, saves you a lot of time instead of going through and manually trying to find it in the system. You can do the background script in Visual Studio as well. As you can see here, there's the background script folder, and I just opened the script here. So if I real quick just do like a log statement, just saying it's the classic hello world. And if I were to run the script, it will, if I click run script up here, it will run and it will output within Visual Studio Code. So again, this is another feature that saves you from jumping back and forth. Oftentimes I just have it full screen like this and I'm doing everything in here, sort of mimicking the ServiceNow experience, but just in Visual Studio Code. So this becomes very helpful as well. I just showed a log statement, but if you're doing some glide record query or you're trying to get, a list of records and you want to make sure you're getting the right list of records before you update your script, you can put that query in the background script here and just output it as a log statement. And then you could see your whole list right here. And you could, in that moment, verify, oh, yep, that's the data is correct. That's the list I want. You can do a quick test and then you can update your script and continue on with your work. So this is another thing that saves you from, updating a script over here, jumping back to your instance to look at a list over here. It's all in one place. So once you become efficient and understand and used to how this Visual Studio works, it can save you a lot of time when you get really good at it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I see the potential. I mean, especially I think probably for more junior developers too that are just sort of learning and getting started. It seems like there's a lot of good safeguards in there. I couldn't help but think of our, certified master architect, Michelle Slater. One of her big mission critical things, anytime we're doing an implementation is to avoid customization, avoid technical debt. And so the fact that, there's that fail safe where you can't, do an update set on the global application seems like music to her ears, so that you're not causing trouble in the instance. Yeah, no, that was awesome. Thank you, Michael. I really
Yeah, no
appreciate
problem.
that demo and overview.
Thank you. Yeah. I hope it helps someone. So appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, I know you are very busy, so I will let you get back to your day and your partner and Babette. So thank you so much for being on Flow at Work, and hopefully we'll get you back in the recording studio soon.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you so much.